Describing any country in one word would be challenging, but for Peru, a single term does the job: diversity. Peru is home to diverse ecosystems and climates. Its Amazon jungle is one of the most biologically diverse places in the world. Its coastline is one of the richest fishing grounds on the planet. This geographical and climate diversity makes the country the third most vulnerable country in the world to climate change. We are a geographically diverse country. It is a country where forests cover more than 50% of the territory, and we don't only have the tropical humid forest in the lower part of the Amazon, but we also have the rainforest. We have the forest of fog. We have the dry forest in the north of Peru, and different forest formations of great diversity and great potential, not only for purposes of a sustainable use of forest, but at the same time as carbon markets and potential ecosystem services. At the same time, Peru has 70% of the world's tropical glaciers, which also makes us highly vulnerable because glaciers are retreating. We have communities, we have forests, we have agricultural land, we have some gas and other hydrocarbons, we have ruins. Then, precisely the greatest challenge is intersectoral coordination for the harmonization of activities, not the exclusion of any of them. And that is a big challenge. This is a daily challenge. This is a constant challenge for Peru. In fact, 8% of GDP is dependent on economic activities, related to the very ecosystems that are in danger. In view of this, Peru is focused on making the necessary changes and enhancing its resilience. Peru's government has launched a program called Plan CC, which aims to lay technical and scientific foundations and develop the capacities to explore the feasibility of clean or low-carbon energy development, and to incorporate a focus on climate change in planning the country's progress. I believe there is time to take measures at a global level to curb the effects of climate change. Science tells us that human behavior is driving the temperature up by 3.7 to 3.8 degrees on average around the planet, which could have catastrophic consequences. With this in mind, Peru has organized a conference on climate change to ensure that decisions are made now and that an agreement is signed next year with a view to stopping the negative effects.
Nuestra madre tierra está sufriendo. Y uno de los primeros mensajes entonces que traemos es: todos somos plenamente responsables.
The Lima Climate Change Conference, COP20, was held in Peru from December the 1st to the 12th. Delegates from more than 190 countries attended to negotiate a global climate agreement to be ratified in Paris in 2015. The primary goal of the event was to find ways to limit the global temperature increase to 2 degrees centigrade above current levels by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The COP20 of Lima aims to be the meeting point where all voices are heard, and that these voices be recognized as a relevant element of the climate debate. That is our goal. And it also aims to be a place where future action is mobilized, where the mobilization of action to achieve ambition is the central element. For us, the fundamental thing for organizing COP20 is to leave a legacy, one that allows the Peruvian to be aware that development is a new route to follow, that future development seeks growth in countries such as Peru, but with good technologies, and moving away from carbon emissions. At the national government level, there is awareness, obviously because the activities of the sectors rely heavily on managing the consequences of climate change. So, we are a very responsible country, and we are a ministry that knows that communication is the way to foster a change of culture towards an environmentally responsible culture. Peru has been maintaining a sustained gross domestic product growth in the last 20 years. Gross domestic product that has had an average of 5 to 6 points per year, which means that there has been increased pressure on resources, definitely, and a greater demand for energy. things are definitely looking up for Peru. After a rough ride in the last few years, due to falling commodity exports, among other factors, the country has reached a turning point. Economic growth picked up in the second half of 2014 and looks ready to rebound in 2015, with expected expansion of up to 4.5%. The government is implementing a myriad of measures, including greater public investment and providing incentives for spending on human capital. Yes, indeed. The Peruvian economy has led growth in the region over the past decade, with a growth rate above 6%, 6.4% during the last 10 years. This has not been such a favorable year, neither for Peru nor for the region. Latin America will grow approximately 1.3%. Peru has very great fiscal strength. We have had surpluses over the past decade, with the exception of a couple of years. Public gross debt around 19% of GDP only. Net around 5%. Balances for the immediate implementation of a fiscal stabilization fund, 5% of GDP. Not to mention the same in another fund of free availability. So we believe it's time to use this strength to be able to, well, let's say, support the re-acceleration of the economy. We want to be a country that gives a clear signal that we are lowering taxes, giving incentives, for example, to invest, to reinvestment of profits, among others. What have we presented in the last 2 weeks? A very important set of rules, a significant fiscal stimulus, greater than 2% of GDP. It contains measures of increased spending, spending with a short-term component, but with one ensuring the execution of public expenditure for 2015. Aims to generate more employment, to generate more investment, generate more growth, and generate more consumption too. The set of measures favors everyone. As I commented previously, one of several measures, among others, is the reduction of income tax for individuals. What we are doing is putting money in the pocket of people so that they can go out and consume. For 2015, our original forecast was to grow 6%. We think that this goal is difficult for 2015. We believe that we will grow, and more with these measures, over 5%. Peru's economic growth is perfectly compatible with environmental compliance. In fact, what we have done during the present administration is to strengthen the environmental framework. Own resources have been given to the enforcement entity of environmental standards, to the OEFA. The Ministry of Economy, in the formulation of its policies, has 4 fundamental cornerstones in terms of environmental consideration. First, risk management. Second, the prevention of climate change impact. Third, mitigation actions. And fourth, our contribution to the reduction of carbon emissions. Although the fall in commodity prices has had a negative effect on Peru's exports in the past 2 years, about 62% of the value of exports still corresponds to mining products. As for energy, the government is working to achieve an energy supply which respects the environment with a safe, reliable, convenient and accessible way for all the economic and social sectors of the country, with the implementation of the biggest energy projects in the country's history. I see the growth of Peru as it is completing a first cycle of expansion based on extractive industries, which is generating resources enabling it to raise education levels and to create infrastructure for a broader industrial diversification. I believe that Peru remains a very attractive country for investments. Here in this room, we have seen Koreans, Canadians, English, a number of companies interested in investing in mining and in the energy sector, gas, hydroelectric, and renewable energies. I think that if Peru manages to put its permits and its socio-environmental management in order, investment will continue to flow. We believe that this effort to introduce a mandatory, more serious environmental management and more serious social management will pay in the long run in terms of sustainability. The most important energy resource of lower cost and less environmental impact is natural gas. Peru has still got natural gas for many years yet. gas is needed to generate electricity and to industrially develop the country. This involves extracting the gas from the fields of Comisia, where reserves are located, and move them to the markets of the coast. We preferred the south because it is the poorest and most densely populated region of Peru. We believe that gas will have a beneficial effect for the local industry and will allow us to explore the possibility of a competitive petrochemical industry. These are the reasons why gas is essential. When we designed the energy matrix for Peru until 2025, the growth of the economy and the energy that this demands will be obtained largely from a balance of gas and renewable sources. If one looks at all this, Peru can not only export minerals, Peru can export energy to other countries in the region. Today, the production of natural gas is about 1.2 billion cubic feet per day, and this continues to rise. It has not increased more because we had difficulties for the expansion of the pipeline. But there is already a big difference. In 10 years, we have gone from 400 million to 1,200 million cubic feet. And if we had solved today the expansion of the pipeline, we would be currently producing 1.6 billion cubic feet per day. And there are many more gas reservoirs in the country. With the use of natural gas in the country, we are contributing much to the environmental care. We currently have over 200,000 vehicles in Lima running on natural gas. All fuels are polluting, but natural gas is much cleaner than oil. Thermal electric generation before was made with diesel. Today in Peru, it is made with natural gas. Today in Lima, we have 600 industries that are using natural gas. As a country, we are contributing greatly to the reduction of the environmental impact.
Perú tiene ahora muy buenos resultados macroeconómicos en primer lugar y en segundo lugar
Peru has very good macroeconomic results in the first place, and that is very important for a potential foreign investor. Secondly, investment promotion standards are very good, and the contracts we sign with investors are contracts laws, which have the advantage of being contracts which can only be amended by the parties. No coming government can modify the contract signed. Another advantage that we have is that there is tax stability, which provides security to investors. One of the worst risks for investors is that the rules of the game get changed over time. I think that if all benefits are achieved in the environmental aspect, with this meeting of COP20, and with bureaucratic procedures, investors will keep coming because there is much to explore in this country. Today we rank 5th or 6th in copper production worldwide, with the investments being made, in the case of Mexico, of $3,400 million, which already began last year, and with investments that will be made in Peru, in our projects of Tia Maria and the enlargement of Tocopala. We will be able to reach 1,200,000 tons approximately. And with that, Southern Copper may be the 3rd largest copper producer in the world.
Podrá ser el tercer productor de cobre del mundo, ¿no? Bueno, las ventajas competitivas es que tiene muy buena mano de obra.
Our company's competitive advantages, a top-notch workforce both in Mexico and Peru, the costs, which are amongst the lowest of the mining companies in the world, and its reserves. Grupo Mexico, along with Southern Copper, has the largest copper reserves in the world today. Within what corresponds to mining companies, we will continue complying with the regulations that exist in each country to be able to carry out our operations. We contribute with our taxes to the national government, and the advantage in this country is that it is established that 50% of these revenues pass as canon to the regions and local governments, so they can invest in infrastructure development and social projects.
Petroperú ya es una empresa ejecutora de operaciones.
Petro-Peru is a company executing operations linked mainly to refining, marketing and transportation of oil through the pipeline.
El proyecto de modernización de refinería Talara es el proyecto estrella.
The project to modernize the Talara refinery is our flagship project. It is simply the project. It is a mega project with an estimated investment of $3.5 billion, one of the largest investments that have been made in the country on the energetic level.
Somos la empresa que factura más. En cuanto al Estado, estamos entregando...
We are the company with the biggest turnover. We are delivering about $1.3 billion through tax returns. That is to say, due to sales to third parties, and $300 million for Petro-Peru's own operations. We are the first contributor to the country in the hydrocarbon sector.
O sea, somos el primer contribuyente en el rubro de hidrocarburos para la SUNAC, para el gobierno. Petro-Peru, por la ruta que
Petro-Peru, by having the pipeline route, which passes through the 3 regions of Peru, is closely related with the communities, and also by the memory that the communities have of the social responsibility actions when Petro-Peru was the producer.
Que somos generadores, estamos conscientes, somos generadores de los gases de efecto invernadero.
Oil companies like Petro-Peru are generators of greenhouse gases. We have to do something to mitigate them, and that is what we're trying to do, because we still depend on these fossil fuels, which are cheap. And while that happens and there is availability of oil, they will continue to be generated. Therefore, Petro-Peru has to become over time an energy company in general, starting to work with wind and solar energies.
A trabajar con las energías eólicas, solares.
Since Peru opened its market to the world with the signing of free trade agreements, until its integration into the Pacific Alliance, one of the major economic powers in the world, the growth in exports from Peru increased from $27.1 billion in 2009 to $42.2 billion in 2013, despite a decline in exports in the last 2 years, due mainly to the international prices of metals. Both the works carried out by the government as well as the initiatives implemented by the Peruvian government ensure a future of high and sustainable growth.
La canasta de exportaciones del Perú está dividida en un 70%.
The basket of exports of Peru is divided by 70%, which are mineral, fisheries and agricultural products, closely linked with the supply factors, and another 30% of the basket depends on demand factors, which depend on the work we do. That 70% is the one that has experienced a significant reduction, which has caused some ups and downs because there are many activities in Peru which are linked and dependent on mining. They depend on the price of copper, on the price of gold, and they also depend on the opening of new mining projects. But that 30% has grown until August by 7.1%.
7.1%.
That 30% that, as I was saying, has grown 7.1% depends on the facilities that we as government, as foreign trade and tourism sector, open in the world. The possibility to export at very low rates, which means the possibility of opening new free trade agreements, that allow us the reduction of tariffs, so we can increase these exports. We have been working on that. Peru today has 17 free trade agreements, and 94% of the total of these products enter with preferential tariffs. The commercial offices abroad. At present, there are 36 offices, and our plan is that, before this government has stepped down, there will be 40 offices completed. But also the great thing about being part of the Pacific Alliance is that it enables us to operate offices abroad, and we're already doing it. We have 2 that we're operating all together, those of Turkey and Morocco, which allows us to reduce costs because we pay a quarter of the rent. And we see the Asian market, for example, as a common market where the 4 countries of the alliance not only do not compete, but are complementary, because being located in different parts of the hemisphere, what we do is taking advantage of these different production windows to place our products at different times of the year. So we are going with a permanent and very varied offer year-round.
Durante el año y muy variada. De los retos más importantes que tiene el Perú.
One of the most important challenges that Peru has is catching up with the infrastructure. We are years behind in the construction of infrastructure. This government has focused on ports, airports, and roads too.
En puertos y aeropuertos, en carreteras también.
We have, as a government, a number of projects specifically linked to foreign trade. We have seen the opening of the 6 gantry cranes in Callao, which will put us in the hub in Latin America. And we will be at the level of the 21st century for the next 12 years. Post-Panamax ships, which couldn't enter before, will now be able to enter. And then, Peixe too. We have seen that it is a port near the center of production, which is in the north of Peru. We are also thinking of using it for tourism, so that cruise ships can disembark.
Tourism is a fundamental element for the economic development of the country, as well as one of the sectors with the greatest social impact, since it employs more than 1.1 million people and accounts for about 4% of GDP. The government's policies are now centered on diversifying the tourism offer and taking advantage of the cultural, gastronomic, climatic and natural wealth that Peru offers to become a premier reference throughout the region. Both in exports and tourism, PROMPERU is the government agency responsible for promoting and spreading the image of the country internally and internationally.
Perú recibe 3.200.000 turistas, de los
In
cuales
2013, Peru received about 3.2 million tourists, of which 880,000 to 900,000 were Chilean. Chileans come mainly from across the border and stay for 1 or 2 days. And then we have the second important group of tourists coming to Peru, who are North Americans. They are more than 400,000. They obviously don't come by land, they arrive by plane to George Chavez Airport. And they stay around 8-9 days. And the average tourist spends during his whole stay around $2,000. As in the case of foreign trade, where one of the main components is the diversification of the exportable offer, what we have been working on in tourism is exactly the same. Diversification of the tourism offer. We have been blessed with having the jewel of the crown by the Machu Picchu, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. We feel very proud about it, but at the same time that we have the Machu Picchu, we have other sites that have been designated by UNESCO. The city of Cuzco, the city of Arequipa, the city of Lima. To develop tourism, we promote our diversity. We have adventure tourism. We have the beaches of the north. We have ecotourism. Recently, we have just launched the one-stop shop for tourism. With the effort we did with a single window of foreign trade, we acquired knowledge, we acquired technology. So much so that at the Pacific Alliance, Peru has been one of the countries that went to give seminars and lectures to Colombia in order to unify systems and be able to advance in the Pacific Alliance. And we are transferring this success we had in foreign trade to tourism, precisely to unlock these administrative processes, which sometimes entrepreneurs face when looking to invest in a hotel, a restaurant, or a tourist place they would like to develop. At PROMPERU, we handle a main idea, which is the image of the country and the promotion of Peru abroad. And at the same time, we work closely with the commercial institutions, the consultants, who are now 36 minors, but who somehow are interrelated because they handle 3 topics: export promotion, tourism promotion, and investment promotion.
los 3 temas, la promoción de exportaciones, la promoción del turismo y la promoción de las inversiones.